Hello BI community, this is our second English speaking session here at the BI Level Up event. I'm really thankful for that and especially honored that I'm able to introduce Stefanie from Merck, Germany, directly from the headquarters in Darmstadt. It is fantastic. I mean, she is lead data culture, and if it's already integrated in the title, the slogan data culture, I think it does mean a lot. I'm very, very happy that you're here. We already recorded a podcast. It was within this data culture series. So actually I just Googled or more or less looked in LinkedIn who's actually having this slogan data culture integrated in his position. That was my connection to Stefanie, and now she's here. She was already quoted, or at least part of her slogan of the title of her session within our previous session from Boris. Probably many of you know this, says the sense or this saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And Peter Drucker, I think quite a famous one, quoted already before from Boris. And now Stefanie is going to provide us several, I think six impulses on how to make sure that your data strategy is not eaten for breakfast or for any other reason, but in fact really being embraced and pushed forward so that it's truly brought to life. I think that is a huge task, and I'm very, very happy that you're here. So let's bring her to the stage. Steffi, it's great that you're here. Thank you.
Hi, Kai. It's nice to be here. I'm actually excited to hold this talk to you today, and I'm happy. Let's kick it off.
Let's do it. So I share the slides for you, and then the stage is yours. Enjoy it, and good luck.
Thank you. So welcome everybody to this talk about how to make sure your data strategy is not eaten for breakfast. It's actually breakfast time, 10 o'clock in the morning, Germany. I'm logged in from Darmstadt, Germany, where the headquarters of Merck is. I'm Merck's data culture lead, so I am really dealing every day with the topic of data culture. And before I start, I want to give you a bit of an overview of what Merck is. So Merck, we are a vibrant science and technology company. And science is at the heart of everything we do. And it really drives our discoveries and everything that we create, all the technologies. And we believe as science as a force for good. And I also believe that data can be a force for good. So data is really, really important for us. It means that we can bring our therapies to the patients in a faster modus. It means that we can predict the needs of our clients and ultimately support in the fight against the global pandemic. It means that we can advance digital living, and that's why for us data is so important that we created a data strategy. And what we of course wanted to make sure is that our company culture is not eating up our data strategy in the end, and that's why we really put a focus on building a strong data strategy and building a strong data culture with it, so that the culture actually can lift the strategy up and even make it a stronger one and make it strive. So maybe I say a few words about our data strategy. So it's really a game changer for us here at Merck because it transforms how we do business. We used to have strong centers of excellence across the whole organization where we already had data as a strategic asset and where it already generated value and the business was moved by data. And what we wanted to do with the data strategy, we wanted to scale this. And that's why we implemented a new data operating model that now gave us the opportunity to really scale this in a way that we have a common and group-wide global approach to data and analytics. So we have common processes, we have the possibility to have a transparency and share data and best practices throughout the whole organization. And we can learn from each other. And at the same time, we have the capabilities, and that's the big change. We have the capabilities directly in the business where the opportunities lie, and also where the business challenges are that can be solved with data. And this new operating model is actually something that came with a lot of organizational change also, but it really gave more freedom to the businesses because they could really rely on the value creation with data and rely on robust processes that we implemented, and also, for example, automated data pipelines. And we did this together with a strong technology backbone. So we created a data and analytics ecosystem that has a lot of technology components in it, and that gives us the opportunity to also work on data on a global scale. And together with this, we have the third big pillar of the data strategy, and that's the aspect of people. So our data strategy is not only about processes and tools, it's also about the people and how we want to live data every day in our daily business. And this is where I come into play with my data culture team, and where we, because we want to make sure that the operating model is lived and the technology is being embraced. And why is this so important? It's important because, I quote again the saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast. There's actually evidence and data on that, especially for data strategies and AI endeavors that you have, culture is a big hurdle. So there's this study from New Vantage Partners where they asked executives on their opinion, and they said, so 92.2% identified culture as the biggest impediment to becoming data-driven organizations. So really, culture is what stood in their way to become data-driven. What is culture? Culture can be defined as ideas, knowledge, behaviors, belief, art, values, morals, and any other capabilities or habits acquired by particular people or society. And those are passed along from one generation to the next by the way of communication. And what does this mean for data culture? Culture actually is what stays when no one's watching and nobody is telling you how to do stuff. It's a natural behavior. And for data culture, it means it's a skill set and it's a mindset. And when we defined our strategy, I sat down with my partners and the different sector data offices and the group functions, and we together defined our vision for data culture at Merck. And this is the dream that we have. We want that every Merck employee consciously creates and shares data and has access to data and analytics, along with the mindset and knowledge to utilize those assets and insights to manage the business and enable others. So we consciously create, share, use data at Merck. And we do this by fighting on three different battles, so to say. So we have the tactics of communication, community, and capability building. So this is what we do to embrace the whole topic. And what I brought to you today is actually 6 tips, because I'm in this position now for 1 year. So I have gained some experience, and I want to share 6 tips on how to build a strong data culture from at least what I learned. And I'm really happy. I hope some of you stay in for the end so that we can have a discussion, because I would also love to hear your tips and what you learned. So for me, my top learning was, it's really the most important thing ever to form alliances. It is amazing if you look into a company like Merck. So we are a curious company where we have a lot of scientists, a lot of brilliant minds out there. So I believe that in every company there are data culture warriors, and there are people and so many great initiatives out there. There are people that understand the art of the possible. There are data stewards who fight passionately for data quality. There are people that are making things happen, embracing the opportunities. And I think what really helped me was to find those people and bring them together, because there's a saying also, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, join with others. And that's why I joined with a lot of activities. I brought people together, And this will amplify their efforts, but also mine, because we really are in this together in this whole transformation, and we are building the data culture. So I cannot do this by myself as the data culture lead, but also not with my team and with the other data culture leads in some of the sectors. We really need the whole company to create that mindset. And there are also other strategic allies that you want to maybe consider. Not only those people that are intrinsically motivated on data, but maybe also people that are important for you. So for example, for me, I'm very happy to have the Works Council as an ally, for example, that helps me because they're interested in the future workforce and future skills that we can build with data and analytics skills. But also, for example, people like the data privacy people in your company, or for me, the speech writers of the executives are strong allies who really help me also to spread the message. And that's actually bringing me to the second tip about the messages. Tell the story. That's my second tip. I think it's really, really important once you have created your data culture army and you created some momentum, have the people that really want to help you and want to join your mission. And it's important to equip them with the right munition to go out and spread the data love. So what they need is to have material that they can use and easily adapt to their own needs, and then tell the story. So what we created was a data narrative or data strategy narrative. We created information videos. We created a meeting in a box where managers can just hold a meeting on the topic of data, the data strategy. We created a master presentation that can be used and adapted to the common needs of the people, and yeah, all other sorts of things, even something that is more playful, like data and analytics escape room game that can be played with the teams, and that is fun to do, but yeah, ultimately you learn about our data strategy and become more data literate by doing it. So that's actually something that helped us a lot. And also, when we did global communication to the whole company, we always looked into really telling the story in a nice and appealing storytelling format. So this is also something that, at least for us, worked quite well. Instead of talking about a data governance on this is how you have to do what, we, for example, we have an internal podcast on the topic of data, and we managed to talk about the data governance in comparison to a big band, and we played the music of a big band without a common framework, and it sounded really awful. And then we played it when everything is aligned, and then it sounded so nice. And that's the same with data governance. If you really have everything in place, you can really be in the right rhythm and work with it. So that's the second tip. And the third tip, and that's also really a booster, I really have to say, sneak into processes. This is also something. The problem with data culture is that you can't just switch it on. You can dictate it from board level and just say, hey, everybody to the shop floor, please be more data literate, please live data culture. This is not something that works. You really need to think long term. You need to do something now, but you also need to look into the process, and that's a very strong foundation for your data culture. So what we did, actually, we sneaked into a lot of processes, especially on the HR side, to make sure we are implemented also for the future generations to come. So we, for example, sneaked into the global employee onboarding process. So every new employee already gets the data package with the onboarding materials. We also managed to sneak into all of the already existing trainings for managers and leaders, so that they have a dedicated session on how to ideate that data project, how to get moving with the topic. And yeah, we looked into a lot of those things. For example, we also created a job framework within HR, so all of the recruiters can really see the different possibilities also for a career path with data and analytics roles. So wherever you have processes you can work with and jump on, this really, really helps to get deep into the enterprise. And the fourth tip that I have, and it's actually a bit also coming from the other ones, and it's maybe a bit inspired by my past. So I used to work a lot in social media, and as a social media manager, you always look for trending topics that you can leverage. And this also actually works internally. So if you have stuff going on, a lot of people are running internal campaigns, you might have transformation projects going on. What you want to make sure is that the data topic tackles so many aspects. So what you want to make sure is that you are present with whatever you want to add to those strategies. So, for example, if you have a big campaign on cybersecurity, you can bring in the topic of data culture in that one. Or if you have a campaign on data retention, you can join that one. I, for example, also managed to get into the topic of digital ethics, where we have a lot of internal discussion on, which is great, and it's a topic close to my heart and also close to the topic of data culture. So it's actually a good possibility to serve the momentum. That's why I would really encourage you to look into what else is happening in the company and join it. And the fifth tip, also maybe coming from my past, because I have a marketing background, is sell it like a marketeer, be bold. So what we did for our data and analytics ecosystem is we created an internal name for it. So that's a purely internal thing. It's called Optimize. In our case, we created it through a AI name generator, where we put in all the attributes that ecosystem should have or will have, and then we came up with that name, and we also come up with a branding to it. So we have everything that we have in the ecosystem is actually in the same colors, and it really brings you the one ecosystem experience, even though you have different technical components, and it feels like one product that we call Optimize. Even, for example, in the system, so this is, for example, our Optimize Foundry, where you can then see the same branding. We also created advertising videos, and when we did our launch event, played it, for example, and I had a funny moment because I was really keen on doing this, and one of my team members actually said, I never understood what you wanted to have with those videos. Why do we need some TV spot for our system? But in the end, when we were in that event and the music was playing, it was fast cuts, emotional music, she was like, now I finally understand why you are so crazy about those videos, because it moved me. And it really emotionally connected to the whole topic. And that's, I think, something that we can leverage a lot more also for internal things. So that's, at least for me, it was a quite successful thing. And the sixth learning, and that's actually a learning that was a bit painful for me, because it's also a learning from failure, is that how can you do upskilling for all? The problem when we looked into what skills do the people need was that you don't have one maturity level. So when we tried to design learning paths, we looked into how can we best bring people on one level, and or how can we make sure that they learn something. And we realized that we have a lot of different maturity levels, because people come in with different backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, and also their job has totally different needs for data and data skills. So it was very hard to find a one-size-fits-all approach to it, and also to buy it like from the shelf. So what we did was we looked into, because we are a very curious company, curiosity sparked learning. So we think people sometimes learn in a curious moment. They look at things and digest it maybe, and then they get interested, and then they do a longer learning. And that's why we created a learning hub, which is basically bringing together a lot of things that we already had also in the different sectors, and gives you the opportunity in such a curious moment to find your perfect learning for the topic. So you can select your area, you can select your background. So if you want to have basic training, or if you want to have something advanced. And you can also select the time that you want to spend. So we even have skill snacks that are only 15 minutes. Those are the internal podcasts that I was talking about, for example. But we also have skill pits and even skill boosters that are longer, up to even weeks of learning. And you can also select the topic, obviously. So this was for us an always on offer that people can join and look at. And the second thing, we looked into guided learning. And there we actually had quite a nice journey on the topic. So we wanted to create a fast-track upskilling for data and digital. So a digital academy where people learn about the important topics of data and digital. And what was important for us was that it doesn't really make sense from what we learned to only throw Python courses to the people and then leave them on their own. So what we did was we created a training offering that has 3 sequential programs that bring together business stakeholders, but also the experts in data and analytics. So our trainers are internal experts. And so in this deep immersion program, they really have online learning, classroom training, and also extended periods of project work under supervision of our mentors that are really Merck people and understand our business. So whatever they learn is really already applicated to the business at Merck. So that's what makes it very strong. And then we have, so it's called the starter, the analyst, and the citizen data scientist tracks, where people can go through that program. And ultimately, the whole program is, I think, 9 weeks now, if you want to become a citizen data scientist. And the starter one is the first week. It's 1 week, and analyst is 3 weeks. And I think it's really, really interesting if you bring people directly into the domain data topics, because then you can make sure that this is also applied and what they learn. So those were the tips that I have, and for me, it actually worked out. So far, we have not had the case that our strategy was eaten for breakfast, and the culture is boosting it. And that was the impulse that I wanted to give. And now I would like to hand over back to, or invite Kai back to the stage so that we can have our discussion.
Fantastic. I mean, impressive slides, impressive story. So the 5th point, sell it like a marketer, definitely also part of your mission in this session here. So fantastic. But maybe just from the beginning, maybe a little understanding or how to set that up properly in other companies. How long is actually the path you are already walking? When did you start with the whole process? And maybe you can also describe from your perspective your level of maturity if you look at all what you described here. I mean, I know you're a lot in contact with other data culture experts, but just from what you presented here, maybe these 2 aspects. First, how did you actually start? How long is the path you are already walking on? And also maybe with a little forecast, what is the maturity level and what are willing to achieve in further perspective?
So our group data strategy efforts, I think they really started intensively in 2020. And yeah, we then founded our Merck data office, where we also have our new group data officer, Walid Mehana, now. And so the journey has been quite a while now, and the maturity is actually something, it's really hard. So there's no data culture index yet, so where you can compare to other companies where you stand, because it's also something that is, again, you have different maturity levels with the companies also, and different needs in the companies. So I'm in contact with some companies from other fields that I always have the impression that they're far ahead, but their business is even more data related than ours. I think you can always do more. Data culture, as I said, is not something that can be switched on, and it's a multi-year endeavor to build it. That's why I would say we're still at the beginning of our journeys. So even though we have already achieved quite a lot.
Okay, still on the journey, it will never end. Of course, that's for the data culture a good saying, probably. But with regard to the organizational standards or the organizational prerequisites, what would you say? You mentioned already your group data officer, probably this shining person, really pushing everything forward and not only saying, okay, I like to, let's say, support or get support from the C-level, but really being this shiny person standing out of the session and say, okay, we are on the great journey and all that. But what are the other, let's say, organizations prerequisites you would say as a basis for your strategy and all the measures you implemented so far?
Yeah, so part of our operating model is that we have our group data officer, but we also have sector data officers. So in each of our businesses, we also have a leader responsible for the topic of data and for leveraging data on a sectoral level and the strategy on a sectoral level. And also there we have totally different approaches and maturity levels, just because some of them have started earlier than others. Some have different business needs than others, and I think it's. I am quite happy with where we stand and what we have achieved in the last years, because it really feels like a joint effort, and it's for the first time we are leveraging data and analytics on a global level, and we are able to scale AI and data throughout the whole company, which was not the case before. So the maturity level is actually has risen quite a bit.
You refer to your data strategy having 3 pillars: the data operating model, the technology, and the people side. Are they all equal concerning the amount of effort you put into, or was it really from the beginning that you say, okay, people is a very, very important aspect of that, or was it more a learning that we need to add people additionally to that strategy, or how was this way or the journey you made there?
The journey was actually when we initially set up the strategy. We had technology, operating model, and people. And now that everything comes to life, the people aspect is becoming more and more important. That's why we also changed the order. Now it's actually people as the first thing that we talk about, and then it's technology, and then it's the operating model. In terms of effort, I think everything is a big effort. The operating model, now that it is already implemented, it's not such a big effort to define it. It really, we just need to make sure it's being lived, and then it's more even an effort on my side and on the side of the sector data offices to really keep the processes that we defined. And obviously there are things that still need to be defined even more. The data governance, which is something that that we obviously want to enhance, and we want to bake it into our data and analytics ecosystem more. So I think the biggest work items at the moment are really the technology and the data culture bit and the data governance. Yeah.
So that is a lot of continuous doing, a lot of things probably never end up. How is, for all those processes, your personal inspiration? Where do you get that from? And how do you really continue to come up with new ideas you can market and bring to your community?
So I'm personally inspired by bringing technology and people together. Always throughout my career. That's why I have a background in digital marketing and social media, because social media ultimately is nothing else than looking at what happens when you give people the opportunity to do something like that with the technology. And so I think that's a really, really interesting point. And I think we will also learn. And I think the data culture journey will also evolve throughout the journey that we have. So at the moment, there's a strong appetite for starter trainings, and we also use the data and the feedback that we get to define our offer. For example, when we looked at the managers, and we gave a lot of trainings for the managers and have a manager community, they actually gave us the feedback that they want to start even a step earlier. So we were talking about the how a lot. So what should we do? And they really wanted to talk more about what is possible. So they wanted to understand the art of the possible and how to be inspired for new ideas to work with data. So that's why, for example, we now focus on, and we call it inspiration engine, where we tell again the story of solutions that we have at Merck, so use cases, where we tell it in a more digestible way. So we create videos in different different target audiences. So a video that explains the use case to a manager has a totally different height of flying than a video that is explaining it to somebody that has a business intelligence background, or somebody that has a data science background that really wants to know, how did you do the coding behind this? And so we are looking into different target groups and different communication to them. So those are things we are currently working in, and I love that.
So it's a lot of passion you put into that. You described pretty much that it's coming more or less from within the company. You did everything more or less on your own, or was it also come external inspiration or external support on different stages of your path where you said, okay, we get some inspiration from outside? Or because there was just this discussion previously with Boris, what is the balance between external impulses and internal doing? What is your experience toward that question?
I think it's very important to have both, because I think there are great examples even in companies that are not they have a totally different business model. There's a lot of interesting inspiration. We were talking a lot about when we, for example, now created the data and analytics ecosystem. We said it needs to be something like Apple has, something, a technology ecosystem that really works and everything brings together. So inspiration doesn't necessarily need to be directly on the topic of how did you set up your data strategy, but this is also something we really leverage. So we try to be out in conferences, try to learn from others, because I don't even know where we stand. You asked us in comparison to others with the maturity level. I think I can only compare this with us, because there's no company like Merck Science and Technology. We have a very unique position in the market with very unique businesses, but I think it's always interesting to get external inspiration. So we also have knowledge sharing sessions where we pull a lot of externals in to share knowledge and learn from each other. We also have external experts consulting us on some of the change aspects, but also on the trainings aspects, somehow just to find, for example, the latest methodologies of how to train. But for us, it's always important that we train it based on our own needs at Merck. So it needs to be customized for us. Otherwise, it won't be picked up.
But customization, of course, is always quite painful to some point, and all the other measures you mentioned, the podcast, a lot of videos, and even to target to the different groups, from the manager to the analyst to a BI expert to whatever you talked about, escape games, all the marketing materials, so that the people can really tell your story within the whole organization and bring in force the adoption, more or less. That sounds, of course, very, very impressive, but of course, there's a lot of work underneath really to make that possible. So how huge is actually your team, or how are you and your team organized? How did that fit all together so that all those great things are really being, more or less being live?
So when I set up the team, the first thing I realized is that I have a lot of data law coming from the social media and marketing background, but I don't have the deep knowledge and expertise to upskill people that are really in the data science field. So that's why I decided for my team to choose people that are a lot smarter than me with regards to that. So I have people that have a data science background, and I have people that have a background in business intelligence. I have somebody that is even an art teacher, so somebody that has more creativity than me, maybe. And yeah, so different knowledges that come together here, and in this case, really strive together. I think it's very interesting. I have a very diverse team. It's actually also spread in 3 countries. So I have people in the US, in Switzerland, and in Germany.
So diverse, and but I think there's also a lot of operating work, I would say, really bringing these trainings to life, recording the podcast, the cutting, and all kind of stuff. So this is also organized within your team, or how could I imagine that?
Yeah, the podcast, I have to admit, is really my personal hobby. So I'm hosting it, and I'm also personally cutting it and doing it myself, because I think it's just so much more authentic if you do it yourself. Of course, I could give it to a recording studio, and it would sound nicer. But yeah, I felt it's more authentic if I do it like this.
I think, yeah, the authenticity is definitely one of this major aspects, really, that it's really pushing it out, and that you can explain your story like you explain it. I think that's definitely part of your success story. But if you have all those different activities running around, the different impulses you already gave to us, but is there also kind of a measurement on how successful the different aspects of your strategy, of your data culture is? I mean, you mentioned, okay, there is not the score, okay, this is a comparable score to some other companies, but how do you actually measure it internally, what you do, and whether it's successful or not, or where do you increase your efforts or decrease? Is there also some insights into that possible?
Yeah, so what we do is we actually created some kind of, maybe it's something like an index, but it's more yeah, a multitude of different KPIs that we track. So what we look into, we are actually using OKRs for this. So we have our different objectives and then key results that yeah, feed those objectives. And we are looking into KPIs, like, for example, we really want to make sure that our data strategy is understood by the people. It's very hard to measure this if you don't talk to them and have a qualitative survey. So but there are some indicators that you can use. For example, we have an explanatory video that if you have watched it, you will have understood the strategy. So we want to have 25% of the knowledge workers at least to see this video. That was one of the KPIs that we had. So we looked into how many people have watched the video. Then we have also internal, and that's again about the jump on existing processes. We have internal employee engagement surveys, and there we have some questions on the topics of data, and there we have some indication if people have understood the data strategy. And those are things, but also when we do trainings, we, for example, look into how many people have we trained, how many trainings are available, but ultimately, I think the great thing, and we haven't solved this to full extent now, but great would be to see what happened after the trainings and how are the trainings really coming to application then in the end in the business. So we see this for those fast track upskilling trainings that I showed you before, because there we have projects and we see it in the system that people are working on it, and that it's really thriving after the training. For the self-service offers, we have less data at the moment, so this is something we're currently working on. But there's no one KPI that you can look at. We also look, for example, into conversion rates. We wanted to have whatever we send out that people have at least, we have a 5% conversion either to one of our communities or to one of our trainings. And we actually had, I think, 7.2% of conversion of our newsletters for data literacy. So we were matching that KPI. And this is the way we are currently measuring things that we are doing.
So not only, let's say, acting like a marketer, but also having kind of this marketing KPIs also in mind, how many conversion rates and how many people you achieve, etc. And what are your thoughts? I mean, it's one thing, of course, this training and that you increase the data literacy of all your people. I mean, you described it. Okay, it's for all. The culture is, of course, for all. But at the end, it's also the added value for the company at the end of the day. So what are the use cases? What are really those things making the difference to your competitor at the end of the day, really bringing also those cool use cases to the road? What are your thoughts on how to measure it, or are there just at least some examples or great examples you received feedback from participants who said, okay, that's really why I do all this journey, because at the end, it's not only that we do great marketing, but it's really that we add value to Merck concerning their use cases and in data products or whatever, what comes out of that.
Yeah, so our whole efforts are really striving into the direction or driving into innovation powered by data and digital. So that's why the ideation topic is for us a very important one. And when we started our learning tracks that we offered, we realized that so we asked people to bring a project, and they had problems to bring projects because they didn't even know how to start to ideate something like this. That's why we have ideation as a strong pillar in our first week of the starter course, so that people can really with us together be inspired by other examples. So other data scientists come in and show what they have done. And sometimes we even find cases where things can be reused in another context. And so we do a lot of help with that ideation. And this is really something that pays off and that you see also. And there, the data in our ecosystem is actually the way you can measure it best, because it's really, you see, if you have the trainings, obviously the usage is going up, or the creation of use cases is going up in those times. And so this is really where we create an impact for the business also.
Oh, cool. So there's in the connection, the training, we see the use cases, and of course, then there are also the success stories out of these use cases. Maybe not always trackable, but at least there's some movement based on the activities you do. And this is also, I think, further pushing your ideas and the whole strategy and culture forward. But if there would be just one single wish you could have, and it would be implemented the next day within the whole data strategy, what would be your wish that it would be implemented directly just by snapping the fingers? Is there really something you're really aiming for, or you would wish to have integrated here?
Yeah, a skill ecosystem, end-to-end skill ecosystem that is interconnected with our data and analytics ecosystem, where I can read everything that's happening. So this is something that I don't have at the moment, which I would love to have. So I showed you this hub, which is a linked list. So I can tell you a lot about who has clicked what, but I can't see, because it's integrating learnings that we have in LinkedIn Learning and Coursera in different learning formats and success factors. And I would really love to know what they did and have more data on it. So that would be great if we could have a skill ecosystem.
Okay.
That would be a dream.
Oh, and anything else I mean, for me, I would say it's quite mature. A lot of companies, if I look at that, all the slides described, again, it's very, very impressive from my perspective. But what are the points you're willing to focus beyond this little wish? Maybe it's true tomorrow, I don't know. But what are other aspects you're really focusing and willing to increase the activities on?
I mean, we are already very lucky with the management buy-in we have, but you can always have more top-down excitement, I guess. Whenever your board members are really keen on doing this transformation, you will also, it's always good to have it from the grassroots and from top down to really create this change. So I guess my only wish is to have every additional data culture warrior joining and fighting for it. It can be somebody on top level, it can be somebody on the shop floor. So yeah, that's something that I would wish for.
Okay, so hopefully maybe this little session here or parts of this, some snippets you will also use as a great marketer, maybe also internally, maybe we can push it slightly forward as well. Thanks a lot for all your impulses, your time, sharing those. I know that you're very open on LinkedIn and everything. If some others having detailed questions or further questions, please feel free to contact her. This was exactly also my way on how I found you as a great speaker for this session, but also for our podcast or for this data culture series. You recommended additional speakers even to me, so that was very, very beneficial to get in contact with you. So I'm definitely recommending everyone who's in this area and would like to get further in touch, further ideas with that. Thanks a lot again. Of course, you will have your famous last words in a second. I'm just willing to announce that at 11 o'clock, we will continue with Eugen Thyssen von DB Schenker, also focusing on data culture. Looking forward to that one. And your famous last words in this session, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I was already looking forward to the last words. So if you're working in data and analytics, and if you want to work in a vibrant science and technology company, contact me on LinkedIn. We have a talent pool for people that work in data and that are interested in working with us. So we are always looking for great people, and we are a fun company to work at. So that's basically what I want to shout out to everybody there.
Perfect. And we got already here some feedback saying, okay, it was great fun. So it was also great fun for me. Thanks a lot and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.